Welcome into New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. In today's show, we're going to do a mailbag where I answered your guys' questions, which aired on our live show every single Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. Subscribe. We only take questions for subscribers because the subscribers are the real ones. So hit that big red button, subscribe, and let's get into a mailbag right now. Shout out to my guy XO Golding. He says, how realistic is it for Randle to get traded in your opinion? If you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have probably given you a pretty realistic. I think it probably would have happened. But the latest reports from Mark Berman say that it sounds like the Knicks want to build with Julius Randle compared to Obi Toppin and have him as the guy that's going to be their four going forward. And I somewhat get that because this is a guy that was second-team All-NBA. This is someone that was top 10 in MVP, most improved. The Knicks brass feels that Julius Randle with the point guard can get back to being that elite level. I think if the Knicks trade for Donovan Mitchell, there's a larger chance that they do trade Julius Randle. If they don't trade for Donovan Mitchell, I think Randle's on the team at least up until the All-Star break. So I think it's more realistic if the Knicks trade for Donovan Mitchell, but if they don't trade for Mitchell, I think Randle is 100% going to be on the team at the season's beginning, game 1 of 82. Appreciate your question, XO. Shout out to Pro Cannon Gaming, a real one. He said, which player has the most approved this season on the team currently? I think it's Cam Reddish. I think he's the guy. He's entering the last year of his rookie contract. And he's I listen to him as an X factor because if he plays above expectation and he lives up to the hype of being a top 10, top 5 player coming out of high school, 5-star recruit compared to Tracy McGrady and Paul George, lives up to the hype of being a lottery pick in the NBA, I think he's the type of small forward the Knicks could use next to RJ Barrett. 6'8", 6'9" wing, can put it on the deck, can shoot it from 3, silky smooth, an easy game, finish right hand, finish left hand, can get you 20 in the blink of an eye. I think he has the most to prove because if Cam Reddish goes through another season of being unavailable, of being hurt, and not producing like he was supposed to, it's going to look really bad for him, in my opinion, going into free agency, and he might not ever get that payday that he wants to be. So I think he has the most approved coming into this season. Marquise Robertson, what up, bro? Marshall Green, do you see the New York Knicks going to the NBA Finals with Donovan Mitchell? Not this year. I think they could definitely get there down the line. This year, no. I think the Knicks are still a piece or two away from getting to the NBA Finals. I mean, just thinking out loud, I think the Bucks are still better. I think the Celtics are still better. Maybe the Heat. Maybe the Sixers. There's definitely some teams that are still better. But what you can expect is for Donovan Mitchell to play his best basketball in the playoffs, because that's what he does. When the game is tight, when Donovan Mitchell has to play like an all-star in the playoffs, he does that. He averages 28 points per game in 39 career playoff games with excellent efficiency. 43% from the field and 37% from downtown. He has 2 games in NBA playoffs in his career where he's scored more than 50 points in a game. There's not a lot of players that have done that. Michael Jordan is one of the only players ever to have multiple 50-point games in the playoffs. So I think if they get there, they'll be better, and they could surprise a team, win a series, maybe get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't think they're ready yet to be a finals contender. I think in a year, maybe when RJ's 23, 24, 25, if he develops into that all-star and you have a threesome of RJ, Jalen, and Donovan Mitchell, I think you do have a chance then going a little bit better into the playoffs and into the finals. But I want to ask you this question. Do you want Donovan Mitchell on the Knicks? Do you want to see the Spider in blue and orange? Type 45 in the comment section, his jersey number, if you want to see him in the Mecca at MSG. John Welsh, Knicks, the longer it goes to make a trade, will the New York Knicks will lose his leverage and give up more for Mitchell? I think the longer this goes on, I think the Utah Jazz actually lose a little bit of leverage because he is on a 3-year deal right now, and every day that goes by, that deal becomes shorter. And I think a team like the Cavs or a team like the Wizards or a team like the Kings, who are reportedly interested in a trade for Donovan Mitchell, I'm not so sure he would re-sign with them at 2025. And if teams that are trying to trade for Mitchell when he goes from 3 years left on the deal to 2 years left on the deal, and they're not sure he's going to re-sign, his value in their eyes goes down. And remember, in a trade like the New York Knicks, they're not competing against themselves. They're competing against other teams and what they have to offer. If the best offer on the table from any team out there is a B offer, the Knicks don't have to give an A-plus offer. They only have to give a B-plus offer because you're not competing with yourself. You're competing with other teams that are buying and trying to trade for Donovan Mitchell. So I think that's something to keep in your mind. I think the longer it goes on, the Jazz actually lose a little bit of leverage. I think once the season starts, I think if Donovan Mitchell's on that team, the talks might be tabled until the All-Star break unless the Knicks struggle out of the gates. Maybe then they feel some pressure to trade for Donovan Mitchell. The early part of the season, if he makes it that far with the Jazz, will definitely be a crucial part of the NBA schedule. And I think it will tell you a lot about what's going on in the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes. John, great question. AON, my guy, he said, think there are any way the Knicks can get rid of Randle and nab Ben Simmons? No, I don't. There was a rumor that the Knicks were, according to Shams, that the Knicks were interested in training for Ben Simmons back when he was available with the 76ers, but I don't want him on my basketball team, to be honest. I don't think he's bought all the way in. I don't want a guy that can't score from outside of the dunker spot, the lane, or the block. Obviously, a great defender. Elite ball handling skills for someone his size. I like his game. I don't know if he's the type of guy I want on my team to build around. I think I'd rather have Julius Randle than Ben Simmons. I'll ask you who this question goes, guys. Who would you rather have on your team? Type 30 for Julius Randle or type 25 for Ben Simmons? AON, good question. I'd rather have Julius. Black and White TV, who is the second string point guard if the team stays with it is? I think it's Rose and Quickley. I think both those guys will come off the bench at the 1 or the 2. I don't necessarily look at it as a spot that's a backup point guard. I think those are both guys that are going to be getting equal minutes. I could honestly see both them playing 20 to 25 minutes a game if the lineup stays the way it is. We saw the connection that IQ and Derrick Rose had together and the chemistry that they had when the Knicks made that playoff push to when they were 4th in the Eastern Conference. It just seemed like they had a good duo and a good chemistry and camaraderie. I don't necessarily think either is technically coined the backup point guard. I see them both getting a lot of minutes. If I had to guess first guard off the bench, I'd probably go with Quickley, though. But I think they both play a lot of minutes. You know Derrick Rose is loved by Tom Thibodeau. Michael Drake, if Leon Rose walks away from Donovan Mitchell trade, what should the Knicks' next move be? Great question. There's a question I've been wondering about for a really long time. We did a video about future all-star trade targets the Knicks could trade for, because at some point you will have to consolidate assets. Remember, the Knicks have 22 picks on the books over the next 7 years. They're not making all those picks. It's not going to happen. They also have 10 players on the roster younger than the age of 25. At some point, you will have to consolidate assets. Maybe shit goes sideways in Philly, and a guy like Joel Embiid after this year forced his way out. Maybe the Suns regress and Chris Paul retires, right? Then Devin Booker, a CAA client, the agency of Leon Rose, maybe he starts to force his way out. It's hard to tell because Mitchell is the disgruntled superstar that wants his way out. Those are two guys I would keep an eye on. I think their next move is definitely still to trade for a superstar. That's the plan for the Knicks and Leon Rose, is to trade for a superstar. That's why they got those first-round picks, not to make the picks. But hey, Michael, I'm sure you're a subscriber. Be like Michael. Subscribe to New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports, because once a move happens, we're going to be going live on the channel. The Knicks make a trade, we go live. News comes out, we get you guys a video. Rumors come out, we get you guys a video. We're the only Knicks channel on YouTube that legitimately puts out a video every single day. I pride myself on that, to get you guys a video every single day. If you love the Knicks, you're looking for a spot on YouTube that puts out daily Knicks videos on the latest news and rumors, game recaps, watch parties, post-game shows, hit that big red button, youtube.com/KnicksTV. Rumple Foreskin, what an awesome name. Do the Cavs have a chance to steal Mitchell? I think there's a chance for sure, but just looking from the outside in, I'm not sure what the Cavs would be willing to part ways with. We know they ain't trading Garland. We know they ain't trading Mobley. Could they try to do a sign and trade with a guy like Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen? That ain't really, I mean, maybe Karis LeVert. I know you gave up a couple first-round picks for Karis LeVert, so I don't really think that they have the best offer, but it's definitely a team to monitor. They've got some picks. They've got some young players. It's just a matter of what they're willing to part with. I think the Cavs have a chance, but I think it's the Knicks, and I think it's everyone else on the basement compared to where the Knicks are on floor number 1. Shout out to Rumple Foreskin. He's clearly a Cavs fan, which means he's not a real one. And if you're a real one, be a real one. Get yourself a Chat Sports Real One Knicks Now themed t-shirt. Go to chatsports.com/real Knicks. That's chatsports.com/real Knicks. If you have a shirt, send me a picture on Twitter or Instagram at @MarshallGreen_, and we'll feature you on the show. My guy Steven, do you think Spida will make the Knicks a 50-win team? Great question. So right now the Knicks over-under is 39.5 wins in Vegas, and that's without Donovan Mitchell. I bet if the Knicks trade for Mitchell, Vegas bumps that up to about 44, 45.5 wins. I feel confident that if the Knicks trade for Mitchell, you win 45, 46, 47 games. 50 is a big leap. You win 50 games in the NBA, you're an elite team. I think the Knicks can be an elite team, but RJ's got to take a step. Mitchell Robinson has to take a step. Jalen Brunson has to play like the player he was in the playoffs when he saved the Dallas Mavericks season when Luka Doncic got hurt and he dropped 41 points in a playoff game and got a W. Definitely possible, but I would probably bet the under on 50. I think 45 to 47 wins is a safer spot in kind of win-loss total the Knicks would be in if they traded for Donovan Mitchell. I think 45, 46, 47. Kobe, over or under 23 points per game for Brunson next season? So I'm going to answer this question under the idea Rumple says he's a real one. Shout out to Rumple. Sorry for doubting you, my guy. A real one. Subscribe to all Chat Sports teams on YouTube. That's what's up. Kobe says under 23 points per game, over under for Brunson. I'm going to answer this under the assumption that the Knicks did not trade for Donovan Mitchell, right? I think 23 points per game for Brunson is very doable. I think in games that he started for the Mavs this past season, he averaged 18 points per game. In the playoffs, he averaged like 28 points per game. I think, go back to those offenses with Tom Thibodeau and Derrick Rose. What was their offense? Clear it out for D Rose, let him work. It's a point guard, it's not a D'Antoni point guard, offense where you get the best out of your point guard all the time. But I think that Brunson is going to be asked a lot of times to just go get a bucket. Shot clock's running down, get a bucket. I think 23 points per game is right on the sweet spot. I could see him averaging 23, 24 points per game, no doubt about it. I'm all in on Jalen Brunson. I think he's one of the best moves all offseason across the association. I'm glad he's a Knick. Last question in this mailbag. Shout out to PCG. What games this season you most excited for the most? Great question. I want to beat I shouldn't have said that. I want to beat the crap out of the Nets. I want to continue to beat the Celtics. And I'm really looking forward to that primetime game where the Knicks travel to Salt Lake City and they play the Utah Jazz. I think it's on ESPN, might be on TNT. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's a nationally televised game. And if we have Donovan Mitchell, that's going to be a homecoming for him. That one's going to be awesome. If we don't have Donovan Mitchell, it might be even more interesting as a game that all Knicks fans have their calendars circled as a game that they want to watch Donovan Mitchell up close and personal, and it may sway them on how they do. That's the game I'm looking forward to, the primetime game against the Utah Jazz. I'm also looking forward to the game where the Knicks come down to Dallas, because that's where we're stationed at. That's where the Chat Sports studios are. I'll be at that game with my guy Seatman. That's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of Donovan Mitchell, though, if you had to choose one of these guys to rock with going forward on the Knicks, who would you rather have on the team this upcoming season? You can only have one in this question. I ask the tough questions because I like the answers you guys give. Pick one of these guys. Type 45 for Donovan Mitchell or type 9 for RJ Barrett.